Hey guys, what's up man? Today we're gonna talk about Occult Crescent. It's been a week and we haven't been talking about it a lot because a lot of us are busy grinding, I myself included, right? So there's a few things that I want to talk about Occult Crescent, how I feel about the content. So let's begin. We're gonna talk about Phantom Job first. I love the Phantom Job. I'm very surprised how the Phantom Job turns out to be like a lot more fun and flexible compared to, say, you know, the Logos action that we had in Eureka or the Lost action that we had in Borgia, right? I think this one is a lot more fun. Like every job can play any Phantom Job and then use any action, and obviously some actions synergize better than the others, right? But I think that overall the Phantom Job is really well done. I'm surprised. Like, dude, every Phantom Job with just a couple more action just suddenly make playing Final Fantasy XIV way better in the instance. You know what I mean? And also I find it very interesting that Camis and Samurai, right? You know, you got the Toss Guild, and then the Camis you have the potion, right? Dude, they actually make you spend money using those action, man. I cannot imagine if you do that in like the base game. Dude, can you imagine you play a samurai and you don't have money? Nobody's gonna want you, right? But I think that it's nice that they put some of these like meme things inside Occult Crescent, and surprise, surprise, people actually find a lot of fun. Nothing too crazy. Yes, it's a little bit unbalanced and stuff. You can say that it's unbalanced and stuff, like the Phantom action can be unbalanced and stuff. But overall, I just think it makes the content a lot more fun. So hopefully moving forward, maybe Final Fantasy XIV can implement some of these things outside of just optional content. You know, maybe our main game content can have some stuff like this. You know, go crazy, right? Maybe it'll be fun once a while, who knows. Next week, I'll talk about the leveling. There's a lot of ways you can level in there. Obviously, we know the Fate and CE is the best source of leveling, and then you can also grind mobs. Now, I don't think the leveling process is kind of the main talking point for this content. You know, like in Eureka, the leveling was like overshadow every content, right? In Eureka, it's like, holy shit, man, you need to get max level or you cannot do anything. Leveling is hard. Fate spawns slow. Fates don't give a lot of EXP. It's just grinding mobs, right? A lot of us is like grinding for 3 days to 5 days, up to 5 days, or even a week in Pagos, right? So I think that's kind of miserable. But at the same time, I also think that Borgia had too much fates to chase, and it's kind of like, I didn't like it. That is one of the things that I did not like Borgia at all. This time, I feel like they do in between. I feel like mob grinding is really good, but people just want fast, easy way, non-try hard. They just go to Fate and, you know, press a few buttons and get XP, right? Okay, the Fate is absolutely horrible. The Fate is miserable. I think if you miss the Fate, no big deal, right? Fates are just very nice supplement compared to, say, like Borgia, right? Borgia Fate is very important, right? But this time in here, Fate is not important. You can like just do anything in between, and you just attend CE. I think the CE spawn rate is okay. It's not crazy like Borgia where you are just sitting in town, apply. This one actually, you know, require you to travel. You might miss some. And I feel like the traveling is kind of like sometimes make you wonder, right? Do you even want to go for it, you know? Or you just continue doing your side stuff like mob grinding or fates or opening chests, right? So I think they kind of balance it pretty good this time. It doesn't matter what you do. There's no wrong way of progressing the content. All this fate grinding and CE and mob comes with the gold and silver coins. Now, I got a few good things to say about it, but also a lot of bad things to say about it. Like, the good thing is, okay, I think they spread out all this currency nicely that you have to do everything. You can't just grind silver. You can't just grind gold. You need to balance your silver, you need to balance your gold, and then in order for you to progress your gear to like +2, especially, you need to open chests. So you can't, I mean, you can, and most likely all of us eventually will be grinding silver because that is literally the worst thing to grind in there. The race is not good. It's super time gated. It's only from Fate. It's only from CE. And average, you can maybe only get like what, 2k per hour. Whereas mob grinding, you can get 3k, 4k, 5k, up to 10k per hour depending on what you're doing, right? Whether you're casual grinding or you're try-hard grinding. So like gold grinding, there's a lot more option. But silver grinding is just Fates. And it's miserable, right? Because, you know, we talked about Fates earlier. The Fate is kind of like irrelevant. They don't reward good enough, and then the CE takes, you know, slightly longer to spawn. And then you got traveling time. You have to drop everything to go and do CE, and they take slightly longer. So you're kind of like time gated. I don't like it, but I do feel like they at least spread out all this content that you have to do everything. You know, so I think that's a good thing, right? You cannot just grind Fate. You have to open chest. To open chest, you have to grind mob. Grind mob, give Phantom level. Grind mob, give gold. gold, you can make money. I think in Occult Crescent, they make it where you can do everything. My only complaint is the silver. Silver is a little bit too slow. I feel like they can bump the reward 2 times and it will be fine. It will still be a long grind. But instead of taking 1 hour to get 2k silver, 1 hour you get 4k silver, I think that is still fine, right? So hopefully they do something about it. Hopefully they also let you exchange gold into silver. Hopefully. Gearing. Okay, Eureka gearing was broken because when you get the elemental bonus, right, it's huge. Whereas this time the gearing is only mainly special attribute, which is like people determine that it's like 1% increase only. So I think it's fine whether you got your base gear or not. I mean, obviously if you can get +2 gear, that's huge, right? That's like 15% phantom action potency, right? But like, you know, base gear +1 gear is only just like, you know, 5 to 10% of your phantom action. I think it's not that broken, unlike Eureka. So whether you have it or not, I don't think it matters. I think phantom mastery is more important, but I think the gearing is fine, right? It doesn't make you feel that you need to have it. It's kind of grindy. So even if you skip it, I think it's okay. So I think the gearing in there is, it's not as good as Eureka, and it's not as useless as Borgia Haze gear. So I think they did okay in there. But my complaint about the gearing is still silver grinding. Right? Each piece of base gear costs 20k silver. And then after you got the +0 to +1, each piece of gear costs another 3.6k silver. So each piece of gear is 7.6k silver. That is way too much. And each piece of gear +1 is only 4.8k gold, which is easily obtainable in less than an hour. Whereas 7.6k silver is like 4 hours. You know what I mean? That's insane. Hopefully they do something about that. But otherwise, you know, opening chests for Aether Spun gold, I think is also okay. I mean, you're gonna be doing it anyway, you know. While you're grinding those silver, you most likely would have opened enough spuns, Aether Spun gold to upgrade your gear anyway, and you can't do it anyway if you don't do Fog Tower, right? So I think the +2 progression is okay. +1 to +2 progression is okay. But base gear and +1 is a lot of work. So again, all comes down to silver. Okay, now the next thing, the most important thing, obviously, after all the base stuff, you know, we talk about Phantom Job, we talk about leveling, we talk about the currency, we talk about gearing. All your horizontal progression leads to the raid, the Fog Tower. Before we talk about the raid entry, let's talk about the instance progging. See, it's a brand new content. It's got a raid. And you got 48 man. So you got 6 parties. Why does Square Enix not let 6 parties queue into an instance together? Now, I am not talking about queuing into the raid together. Okay? I'm talking about queuing into the instance together. Before you attend the raid, before you even try to enter the raid, why is there no system that allow... I mean, it doesn't need to be 48 man, even 24 man, which is 3 parties, right? 24 man to 48 man. Why don't they have a system that allows 24 men to queue together, or even better, 48 men to queue together? Now, they already have the system for 24 men, right? You make your alliance, you have a system already to recruit, fill up the party, and queuing together. So your system is there. Your DRS, you can even do 48 men. Even if it's 24 men times 2 alliance, it's also easier to plan, right? Hey, 2-person queue together, the chance of 2 alliance getting into the same instance is easier. Rather than 8 parties, I'm sorry, 6 parties of 8. Why didn't they implement the system which is already in place for us to queue into the instance together as a 48 man or even 24 men times 2? Right, so they don't have that system. I think that's really, really bad, right? So I think that is the one thing before the next one they need to address. So that one is pre-entry, right? Just to get into the same instance, right? I think that one they need to improve. That one is, in my opinion, the worst thing that happened in this Occult Crescent. The one thing that they clearly either missed it or they clearly didn't expect you to have a static, which is dumb because obviously there will be statics. You already seen it in DRS, you already seen it in BA already. This time it's not going to be any different. Obviously someone is going to queue in as a static. So the fact that they don't have that system, I think is really bad. And then once you are in, obviously they got the raid entry. Now, I don't mind the raid entry. I think the raid entry being the fact that only 48 men can be chosen, but you got a cipher system. And let's just say if you got some snipers, we call them, you know, those people that has no idea what they are doing, go in and ruin the fun of a couple of it. That's fine. That's fine. You know, you cannot deny these casual players or any players to be denied an entry because, number one, the instance is 72 men. The rate is only for 48 men, which then means that only 60% of the people can attend. You can't say to the other 40% and say, yo, fuck off, man, get away, we don't want you. No, you can't say that, right? So there's a high chance that you're gonna go in with at least 40 men out of 48 men or 45 men out of 48 men. to proc the fight. So I don't think it's a big deal, you know, 2 to 3% missing out because of the mechanic. You can still proc via a VOD, or you can still stay in Discord and look at people. That's fine. I think that's fine, right? And I think that if you fix the instance entry that I mentioned earlier, then the raid entry wouldn't be as bad. It's because the instance entry is so fucking annoying. That's why when you then get into the raid entry and 1 or 2 people miss out, that sucks. But if, you know, all of us can just 48 men go in, 24 men go in, we are in the same instance, we apply. I don't think people will be more mad than they are, right? Because right now, I think the instance entry is the main problem. But otherwise, I think everybody should be entitled to go in, right? So I don't think, I don't have any problem with the raid entry. The cipher system is good. The raid spawn every 30 to 40 minutes is consistent, no more bullshit. I think it's good. So, you know, every 30 minutes, you know, people get a chance to learn and proc. I think that's good for the content. Now, the raid difficulty. I don't think the raid is difficult. I think if you look at every single boss, they are at most EX12 difficulty. But it is harder to proc than DRS. I think DRS is way harder. The mechanics are actually hard in DRS, I think, in my opinion. Some of the mechanics are unique, some of the mechanics are actually hard, but the Fog Tower is harder to proc because the Fog Tower has got body checks. Straight off the bat on the door boss, I mean not door boss, on the first boss, the Demon War, you already got soaks that you only need 4 people per tower, yes, but then there's 6 towers. That means you need a minimum of 24 men. And if 1 man is missing, you guys get a Doom stack. And 3 Doom stack is a wipe. And then there's multiple towers also. And then you also got the Meteor mechanics. If 1 guy put the Meteor in the wrong half, it's a wipe. If 1 or 2 person, I mean, I guess 1 person is alright, but if both person fail the jumping stack thingy, it's a wipe. So I think this one is harder to proc because they are actually body checks. Not high body checks for minimum 24 men, which is why I think this content you have to do with minimum 24 men. Until maybe you outgear it and then you can cheese a couple of mechanics, take 1 or 2 Doom stack, but you have to have minimum 24 men to do. And there's a lot of body checks, right? And second boss also got body checks. The snow boss, the fire. The third boss also, dude, the third boss is a massive body check. Although the dive bomb plus the tower is okay, but then the last mechanic of the fight has a lot of towers that you need body check. So there's a lot of body check. Last boss also got body checks. And it's very easy for 1 guy to fuck up the entire proc. 1 guy to fuck up 48 men, 24 men, 1 guy. That's why having pucks that snipe your static group is really, really bad. So I want people to understand that when you are not prepared to go in, you didn't see a video, you didn't have gear, and you are playing a DPS with the wrong phantom job, you are gonna die. And nobody's gonna raise you. Because we do not want that 1 guy to fail a mechanic and waste 48 other men people's time. So please understand. I'm not saying that this is not puggable, but please understand why people don't want you in the party and people don't want random pucks in and people don't want to raise you. So please understand that. Because this one is harder to proc and or even clear. Because 1 guy failing last boss, okay? 1 guy failing Rune X is almost a wipe. 1 guy failing Holy Lance is 100% a wipe. Whereas if you look at DRS, right? Every single mechanic in DRS is all solo mechanic. You can even 4 men pull the boss, while the other 44 men sit outside the boss arena and watch, and the 4 men can get enraged. There's no body check. Everything is solo player check. Everything is you fuck up 3 times, you die. But you can never kill someone else, you know? Whereas like in Fog Tower, you can easily wipe the entire alliance, right? So this one is harder to clear, easier to learn, but harder to proc. Fog Tower is a lot more teamwork. Let's talk about the Relic. I'm really sad that the Relic has nothing in there. In Eureka, right, the Relic have elemental bonus. I thought that this one maybe will have some special attribute +1 also, right? But they didn't. This Relic is just completely catch-up gear. Even with more substats, your 700 Neo Kingdom gear is still better or equal. So the Relic is kind of completely useless. It's kind of sad. And also, they go back to 1005 tomes. Except they add in 1 more Atma step. Why can't you let us have 2 ways of making Relic? Sure, if you want to grind tomes, okay. But why don't you let us spend extra Atma that we're going to be doing more fates in there and more Cs in there? Why don't you let us also make a second Relic with Atmas? Just keep earning Atmas. And then use the Emma to get a Relic. Why does it have to be 1005 tomes again? So I don't know why they do that. The Emma system is alright. The Emma system is like a nice supplement, right? You are grinding coins, you are grinding level, you are earning currency, and then you still can work on the Relic. I think it's fine, right? But, you know, going back to 1005 tomes after the Emma step is kind of like, yeah. And also, again, the Relic not being usable in there, not having special attribute in there is kind of like me. So hopefully next time they do better. The last thing I want to talk about, I think a lot of people is also like complaining, like Xeno. Why is leveling not allowed in there? Okay, look. I am not a big fan of having a optional content that lets you level. Call me old-fashioned, but I feel like the game itself already got a lot of ways for you to level up already. You got your roulettes, you got all these dungeons. All these are your ways to level up. Now, deep dungeon is okay, because deep dungeon is separated into two content, right? You got story, and then you got the try-hard factor, right? You got the first 30 floor that is story and leveling, and then from floor 30 to 100 is the try-hard. This one, like Eureka, is specifically for the horizontal gear progression in a self-contained content, and then the raid. So obviously leveling is not the main piece of content in here, right? Now, they did it in Borgia because there's no deep dungeon, so they got lazy at the end. And let me tell you, the experience in Borgia is so bad. Because when you do Castrum, when you do those CE, people are playing job, they have no idea what the f they are doing because they are leveling. That's why it's a slog. That's why people even fail Castrum. People fail the easy 24-48 main content. Why? Because they are leveling their job. They don't know what the f they are doing. Leveling is such a sour taste in the mouth when you are enjoying or doing a separate optional content, right? So I didn't really like it when they do that for Borgia. And then after that, you know, people also abuse the f out of this, right? People abuse the shit out of this, right? To level. And guess what? They nerf it. Because why? They never want a specific piece of content just for leveling. That's why they make changes to Heavens on High. They make changes to Eureka Autos. Borgia turned out to be the best one, and then this one turned out to be the best one. That's why they have to nerf all these EXP, because there's already enough content in the game for you to level. I don't think Occult Crescent should allow you to level, because it's already a grindy, self-contained with a raid. There's no reason that you should be leveling in there. Now, is leveling in that better? So that maybe people will be more encouraged to do the content? Yes. But what I think is, if you allow leveling in there, I just think that the content will just be diluted. Like, people will just not take it more seriously. Dude, CE will take longer. Raid is gonna be worse. People are in there in their leveling job. I just feel like it's not good for the content that they designed for, clearly, for an optional content, side content. It's not leveling content. So I think not having leveling is, personally for me, I think it's good. The loot, bro. I don't know why they squeeze every loot into the coffers, man. Why the hell is Eureka and Borgia loot in there? Why the hell is there a Gabriel Mark III in there? Now, when Yoshi P says that they're gonna give us 1.5 more times reward, and obviously it's not just gear, but also cosmetic, I expect them to be making brand new ones. I don't expect them to give us old ones in there. Dude, there's a reason why there are Eureka and Borgia players out there today still, because it's a lot of money to earn in there. Now, a lot of this mount went from 10 mil to 1 mil. Went from 10 mil to 100k. I think that's kind of fucked up that you kill the economy for the other few operations, right? Like, these few operations should be making people maybe want to check out the old few operations, right? But now it's like, what is the point? What is the point of going back to do Barney Fates now? They went overboard and put in, why is Pago's shoes in there? Why is Pago's shirt in there? Why is Pago's loot in there? They should have balanced it out a little bit better. Definitely kill the vibe for a lot of old few operations players, motivation, and completely saturate the loot too much, and we are not getting what we really want. Most of the 80% of the things we get in there is garbage, right? And then 10% that we really want, obviously, eventually is the Aether Spun Gold, which a lot of people is going to want it the moment you can get Sanguinites from the raid. So, yeah. Like, why don't you just let the coffers drop some items that can exchange for 100 silver? You know, a 5% chance of getting a coin that you can go to the NPC exchange for 100 silver. Why not? You know, like, stuff like that will improve the silver economy, right? So, yeah, the loot is definitely pretty bad. So overall, I think lots of good, lots of bad, but overall more good than bad. I give this content easily 9 out of 10. And after this 1 week and looking at those people trying, playing, grinding, the best thing about this content is you can play at any time. Literally 24 hours round the clock, you go in, there's always people playing. Just like what an MMORPG needs to be. Round the clock, always something to do, always something to work towards for, always something to grind, strengthen your character, and then work on the raid. For the first time in 5 years, I never felt like I could play in JPNA, or, you know, even if you're EU, you can play round the clock. You can play anytime. That's the best part. That's what MMORPG should feel like. This could have been 10 out of 10. The -1 point for me is obviously the instance entry for groups and the silver grind, which is not rewarding enough for everything else that is in there. So these are the only 2 factors why I only give it 9 out of 10. That's minus half a point each for me. So this is how I feel about the content. Let me know what you guys think. Did this video hit close to home, or do you think that there's anything I missed that you want to add on? Leave it in the comment section below and drop the channel a like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Okay, we done.